Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to TBR TBR, my Throwback Thursday TBR review, where I go back to the very beginning of this channel 4 years ago and go through every single book that I showed you to give you my reactions to it, my appraisal of it, because most of the time, probably 80% of the time, 85% of the time, I didn't do that at the time. A lot of times, especially when I fell into the habit of doing mail hauls on this channel, I hadn't read the book, hadn't even heard of it in some cases. So although some of these very earliest videos were done in a different way than I do them now, where I would read some new releases and then talk to you about them. So some of these early videos I do give my opinions on. I thought I would revisit them all, and actually you thought the same thing, because a number of you suggested this, that I just go through and give you the rundown of every book we've ever done. Okay, so we will do that. I've been watching these earlier videos, and I confess, they've been working on me emotionally, in a way. I mentioned that I seem very diffident and standoffish in a lot of these earlier videos, that I don't talk with any kind of the vim and vigor that I use these days. And watching the two or three videos that I'm doing for today, I realized one of the reasons for that. It's right there in the video if you're watching closely, but I didn't realize it until I paid attention, and that is that I am surrounded, I'm bracketed on both sides by very old sleeping dogs, and I was just keeping my voice down. That's all. I was just keeping my voice down, and you can see in some of those earliest videos in March of 2016 that I started out that way, just being really mindful of my girls, and then as I get caught up in books, I start forgetting. Luckily, I don't often, as far as I can remember, I never wake up Lucy, my basset hound. That never happened. I had to wake her up, had to shake her. The only dog I've ever had in my life where I would be reading, sitting up in bed, and I would look down at the bottom of the bed, and she'd be laying there, and I would think, is she dead? I would have to go over and actually palpitate for signs of life. She's also the only dog I've ever had at any age that I had to shake awake. That's a normal thing with humans. Many is the human I've had to shake awake. But dogs, no, except for her. But I also had an old frail pointer, Malin, at that time, and you can see them in the videos, and I'm trying, clearly part of me is trying to keep my voice down, but it doesn't work. When I'm talking about books, it doesn't work. But anyway, we're going to go through a stack of books here, and at the end I will give you the bean of the batch commemorating my current dog, my little Schnauzer, where I picked the one that in my mind sticks out as the best of the ones that we're talking about. So we'll start with City of Fortune by Roger Crowley. That was a sort of a financial history of the city of Venice at the peak of its power, the peak of the Republic. Very, very good book. If you, like me, have at any point in your life began to assemble a library of books on Venice. I used to live in Venice, and I had at one time a whole bookcase of books on Venice. And maybe even now I still do have a whole bookcase worth of books on Venice, but I don't have them together anymore. And the bulk of that, I guess if you want to call it a collection, has dissipated, as I realized over time that I was adding to it specifically because I'm never going back to Venice, that I was adding to it for nostalgia reasons, which is a very, very bad reason to collect books. It's a very bad reason to fill shelves with heavy objects. So I started slowly to dissipate that collection, and not a lot of it remains. For instance, I don't have Crowley's book, and I have no idea if it appeared in paperback. I have no idea if I blurbed on the paperback or anything like that. It's going to be a usual refrain. Then another book was An Imaginary Life by David Malouf. I did not get this new. This was part of a used book haul that I did. And it's his slim novel about, a historical novel about the Roman poet Ovid in exile. And it's very, very good. It's one of the best Ovid novels that I've ever read, and I've read quite a few of them, too many of them for my liking. The next one is also a novel. It's The Lives of Stella Bain by Anita Shreve, called Stella Bain in America. I found a nice UK trade paperback edition that I wish I still had. I don't have any idea where it is, and I don't have any idea why I would have got rid of it, since it's a very good book about a woman slowly, painfully recollecting her own memories. Easily the best, my favorite Anita Shreve novel, and that was a lovely edition. I found it for $1. I don't know why I didn't keep it, but I did a cursory search, and I don't think I have it anymore. That's probably also going to be a familiar refrain here. And the next one is one that I am never without. It's edited by Thomas Godfrey. It's The English Country House Murders. It's an anthology of murder mysteries set in English country houses, and it is divine. Absolutely divine. There have been other such collections, and of course there have been lots and lots and lots of novels murder mystery novels, whole-length novels set in English country houses. But this anthology takes them all. It's just, I've read it I don't know how many times, and I still go back and reread it. It's in this room, and sometimes when my eye lights on it, or like for instance at the very beginning of 2020, I was deeply entrenched in reading murder mysteries, novels and short stories, just deeply entrenched. Before, death started to be a daily headline, I started losing my interest in doing that. But in the beginning of 2020, I took down that collection in this room and reread probably half of it. That's that copy, that hardcover copy that I found in this March 2016 video, probably is the copy on my shelf now. I don't think I've got rid of it, but it's so hard to tell. I don't know where half these things are going. That's another thing that this TBR TBR walkthrough of every book I've ever hauled on this channel is going to cause. Is a lot of heartache for me. Because I'm not going to know where all these books are, and I'm going to want some of them. The Lives of Stella Bain I want, and I don't have it. But anyway, then we get to a raft of Penguin classics, which will echo and presage some of the Penguins that we're doing in my daily Penguin series. I did the Penguin classic of Dangerous Liaisons, the Penguin classic of The Last Days of Socrates, the Apology and the Euthyphro, I think, is in that volume. Then the Penguin classic of the Orkneyinga Saga, which we've seen it on Saga Long, and we also saw it in a batch of Penguin classic Icelandic sagas. And the Penguin classic of Steinbeck's The Log from the Sea of Cortez, which I don't think I have anymore. And why I would have got rid of a Penguin classic, beats me. I don't think I do. I haven't done an extensive search, but I don't think I do. But in the meantime, one of you sent me a Penguin Classic Deluxe edition of all the short books of Steinbeck, and I think that although The Log of the Sea of Cortez is nonfiction, I think it's in there. I'll have to double check. We'll get to that book sooner or later in the Daily Penguin. Then there was Dante by Marco Santagata, a Dante biography that is really, really good. It's a foursquare, ordinary, birth to death biography. It's not to be confused with the big Dante book that I got. Was it early this year or late last year? It was early this year. Brilliant book that isn't really a biography. It's something else again completely. I don't even know what you would call it. It's not an intellectual biography either. It's a study of the cultural phenomenon of Dante, but it has lots and lots of Florentine history. That is not that book. Santagata's book is more straightforward biography and very, very good. I believe I have the trade paperback. I don't have the hardcover anymore, and I don't know why. I don't know why I would get rid of that hardcover. But anyway, at least I have one copy of it. Then a Junior Bender novel called King Maybe by Tim Hallinan. The Junior Bender novels are terrific fun, and this one was. King Maybe was terrific fun from start to finish. Probably it's in paperback by now. Probably there have been a couple of other Junior Bender novels that I just haven't got and haven't paid any attention to. Then The Bastards of Fizzocontone by Mauricio de Giovanni, who did the Commisario Ricciardi novels for Europa editions in English. And I loved the Commisario Ricciardi books inordinately. They are amazingly good. They're set in mid-20th century. What is it, baby? Do you want to be on camera? Oh, the baby. Oh, goodness. I think she's staring at me. I think she wants to be on camera. Oh, there we go. Here we go. We had a tiny little trim session of the belly hair. It did not go over well. She hates having her hair trimmed. Hates it. Why? I don't know. It's just going to make you cooler. But you seem to hate it. She hates the scissors. But I'm not going to send her to a groomer. I'm not going to have a stranger do that while she's strapped onto a table. No way. She'd hate that a lot more. But I'm thinking, theoretically, just because of the tilt of the planet of the Earth itself, I mean, Earth's orbit has not been affected by extraterrestrial beings. So I know that sooner or later, simply the orbital tilt of the Earth itself is going to change to at least theoretically allow a tiny amount of warmth in the northern hemisphere. At least a tiny amount. Many parts of Massachusetts, including perhaps the outer boroughs of Boston, are scheduled to get snow this weekend. And it is right now, as I speak, freezing cold in Boston in May. And we're approaching mid-May. And we're on deck to have the latest snowstorm in recorded history in this part of the world. But the planet is still tilting. No gigantic extraterrestrial force has stopped that from happening. So just by the laws of physics, maybe by mid-August, it will be warm here. And so I figure, theoretically, it'd be good if I get Frida used to me trimming her hair so that she can have a shorter haircut if it ever actually does get warmer in Boston. Anyway, where were we? Oh, I showed you the page. Oh, right. We were talking about Commisario Ricciardi, but not... This particular book is not a Commisario Ricciardi book. It's set in present day. And it's very good, very snappy. Whereas the Ricciardi books are more mournful. Their main character is someone who has the ability to hear the last utterances of dead people. He can see them, and he can hear them. They don't know he's there, and no one else can see or hear them. And they can't tell him anything. All they can do in these visions that he sees and no one else does, when he's a police commissioner, he goes into a room where a murder has been committed, he sees the surroundings, he sees his colleagues, he sees the dead body on the floor, and he also sees the dead person standing in the corner. And they're reciting over and over again the last thing they said. So you've got a blood-smeared woman in the corner standing there saying, well, you're the last person I expected to see. And Ricciardi has that horrible, but, tangible, rung up on maybe figuring out what's going on. But it takes a huge psychic toll on him. There is no character as compelling as that in this book, but it's still really good. Still really, really good. The whole Europa line, reprinting Giovanni, is good. David, this author is really, really good. In the English language translation, I didn't write it down. I think it's Anthony Shukar. It's really good, the English language translation. And then the last book on the batch is Burn Math Class by Jason Wilkes. An eager, enthusiastic young author trying to convince us all that we shouldn't have been bored out of our minds during math class in school. He didn't convince me, and I'm not sure that he'll convince you, but boy, oh boy, will you love the energy with which he tries. So that is TBR TBR number 3. That's our batch for today. Who knows how long? I'll do 2 of these a week, and we'll just be doing them forever. Although maybe not, because my TBRs have effectively stopped. My mail hauls have effectively stopped. Unless they start up again, we could start to catch up on our own. And all that's left is the bean of the batch, and for me, of course, it's going to be the English Country House Murders. That volume is just... it's not just that the stories themselves are so wonderful and so varied. It's also the anthology. We've talked on this channel before a little about how tricky it can be to assemble an anthology. Sometimes it isn't just a question of finding the very best stories that you can find. Sometimes a really good editor will arrange them, put in different stories, different registers, different paces, with an eye towards making the anthology itself an independent reading experience from the books inside it. It's only the very best editors that know how to do that would even think to do it, and that could do it well. And this one really does. This is not just a batch of really good murder mysteries. It's also a wonderful anthology in its own right. So it gets the bean of the batch for today. And that's it. I'm going to wrap this up, but we'll be back. We have ever so many more of these to do. So I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.